Hello, my name is Chase Crandall. I'm a current sophomore at the University of Oregon, studying both biology and anthropology. I was a recipient of the FYRE Award. The title of my research project is Staying Friends, Bonobo Social Network Resilience, and I was advised by the lovely Dr. White and graduate student Sedona Epstein. So before I start, I'd like to first define the field of biological anthropology. Biological anthropology is the study of human evolution, variation, and adaptation. Biological anthropologists do a lot of different things, but one of those is studying non-human primates, our closest living relatives, to better understand why humans are the way we are. Biological anthropologists especially love to study bonobos and chimpanzees because they share around 98.7% of DNA with humans. Even though bonobos and chimpanzees look very alike, they are very different when it comes to their social structure. Chimpanzees are characterized by male-dominant societies and aggression. Chimps have been known to engage in war between groups just as humans will do. Bonobos, on the other hand, are matriarchal and considered more peaceful. Bonobos solve conflict by strengthening social bonds through affiliative behavior. Studying bonobo behavior specifically is interesting because they are so much better at, quote, keeping the peace than chimps. I'm interested in studying bonobos specifically to also expand the literature on conflict research. While reconciliation and conciliation behaviors have been identified in bonobos, little research has been done to explore the impact that agonistic and affiliative behaviors have on social networks. So my research question for this project is, how do agonistic and affiliative behaviors influence bonobo social networks? I know I've been throwing a lot of keywords out there, and I'm going to take a second to define those. So by social network, simply put, I mean a measure of how strong or weak the bonds in a group is. This next image is an example of a social network. So each of the squares would be a bonobo, and then the lines between them denotes how, for lack of a better term, close those two individuals are. So thicker lines would be two individuals that are more closely bonded than thinner lines. And an affiliative behavior, by that I mean behaviors that strengthen social bonds. So these would be sociosexual behavior, grooming, and play, as well as some others. By agonistic behavior, I mean a behavior that weakens social bonds. This would be a display of aggression or instances of conflict within groups. I hypothesize that affiliate events will result in stronger social network bonds, while agonistic events will result in weaker social network bonds. I'm lucky that I live in SoCal, very close to the San Diego Zoo, which houses bonobos, so I was able to observe the 8 bonobos there this summer for my research. However, before any research could commence, I first had to learn the IDs of the bonobos. This means I had to be able to tell them apart. This is essential for primate research, especially the research we are conducting, because it helps to inform group structure. For example, it's important to know that a mother and son are interacting rather than just a male and female. Knowing who each individual is helps to inform the context of the behaviors that we are studying. I use the Zoo Monitor program, which I was able to download to my iPad, to observe the bonobos at the public viewing areas of their enclosure. The app was programmed to conduct rotating 10-minute samples of individual bonobos out on exhibit. One session would be a full lap through all the bonobos out on exhibit. Since there were normally only 4 out at a time, sessions were mostly 40 minutes long. During each 10-minute focal, I would follow that individual around the enclosure and mark any behaviors that I saw, noting individuals involved. At the end of each 10-minute focal, I marked the location of every bonobo on an aerial map of the enclosure and moved on to the next. Or if it was the end of the session, I would end the session and save it. In the event of conflict, any aggressive behavior that happened, I would restart a new session, starting with those individuals involved in the conflict. I would take special care also to mark these sessions as post-conflict, so I could refer to them later in data analysis. I would also restart a new session in the event of an outburst. An example of an outburst would be a sudden scream when the context before this was seemingly calm. Following this methodology, I was able to record just under 170 sessions this summer, spanning from June 17th through September 18th. I looked at a lot of different behaviors. I was able to observe many when I was at the zoo. Some common behaviors that I saw were display, close partial, proximity, co-feed, groom, sociosexual behavior, and play. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of those when I go through these videos. So here's an example behavior of co-feeding. So the bonobo closest to us is Belle. She's walking away now, but those two are Maddie closest to us and then Callie furthest away. Those two are co-feeding. They're eating some lovely lettuce together, strengthening their bond. And then this over here is an example of grooming. So here we have Callie, who's grooming Lisa. And then you can't really see her that well, but Loretta's on the sort of behind Lisa, and Maddie just walked over here. But grooming is when they will pick through each other's hair, picking out bugs. Yeah, it just is a really great way to strengthen their bonds with one another. Awesome. And then this aggressive behavior goes by pretty quickly, so I'll play it a couple of times. But that was Loretta, who was running at McCossie. I would probably code that as a charge. Yeah, so you see that she runs at him and he dodges out of her way. And then this will be a play behavior. Here are Maddie and Belle. Just like any human siblings would, they're sort of like play wrestling, roughhousing. It's very funny. It's very cute. I love it when they play with each other. So now that I've taken you through what these behaviors might look like, now I'll walk you through what I'm doing while I see these behaviors. So this is what the Zoom Monitor app home screen looks like. I'll click Continue as myself. Then I'm going to go to Projects. I'm going to go to San Diego, and then I'm going to start a session. Exciting. We're going to pretend that Loretta's group is out right now. So something I didn't mention before is that normally there's 2 groups of 4 individuals each. Normally those are Loretta's group, so Loretta, her sons Aaron and McCossie, and her daughter Callie. The other group of 4 will be Lisa, with her son Vic and her daughters Maddie and Belle. And sometimes there will be a super group, which is really exciting, where it's sort of a crossover event between the 2 groups. But in this case, we're going to pretend it's just Loretta's group out right now. So I'm marking those individuals. I'm making sure it says Loretta's family. This is not post-conflict, so I'm saying no. We're going to pretend that they were just let out, so it's been 0 minutes. And then on my phone, I would have a random order generator, and then I would input this order. So right now, we're going McCossie first, then Aaron, then Callie, then Loretta. And I'm sorry the screen keeps jumping up and down. And then down in notes, I would write out an important note for myself. So right here, I've written that they've gone out to food. I might be a little more specific than that and write specifically what food they went out to. So since we're starting with McCossie, I would click McCossie. I'd scroll through all these different buttons, codes of different behavior. I'm going to start his focal. At the top, you can see that there's the timer counting down for his focal. It's 10 minutes, so now we have just under 10 minutes left. We're going to pretend that Aaron is co-feeding with McCossie, so I just coded a co-feed with him. I think I said that Aaron initiated. Yes. Here's another look at all of the behaviors. And then when I want to stop that behavior, I'll click Stop Behavior. Yeah. Then we're going to go over to Callie. We're going to pretend like McCossie just got up and walked away and Callie followed him without touching him. So no contact, Callie followed McCossie. And that's what I coded as in that one. Then here's Loretta. We're going to say that she's co-feeding with McCossie. So we're going to click co-feed. No contact, meaning they aren't touching. McCossie initiated, so McCossie probably went up and sat next to her. And then you have to mark that Loretta is co-feeding with McCossie. So now I'm going to end that behavior. I'm going to go through, we're pretending right now that we're at the end of a focal. So I ended all behaviors, I ended McCossie's focal, and now on this map I would mark where each individual is in the enclosure. And now we'll pretend that we're at the very end of the session. So I'll click End Session and I'll make sure I click Save. Awesome. Okay, finally, it's time to actually meet the bonobos. So my favorite part of doing research this summer was getting to know the individual personalities of each bonobo. Just like humans, each bonobo has their own unique quirks, and it was just really fun getting to know them. So on the left we have Callie, and on the right we have Makasi. You can see they look very alike. That's because they have the same mom and dad. Callie is my age, she's 19. I felt a little bit of an affinity for her. She's just really fun. She's really kind of sassy. She just doesn't really take what her brothers are putting down. You know, she wants to be in charge. Makasi is great. He was hand-reared by humans actually instead of Loretta rearing him, so he's a little bit different compared to the other bonobos. He doesn't totally know the difference between good attention and bad attention, but I still love him because he's very lovable, he's very goofy, he's very cute and sweet. Next, we have Aaron. Aaron is a really tough guy. He likes to display a lot, especially at the public. Yeah, he just likes to show off his muscles, kind of. And then Loretta is amazing. I feel like anybody who goes to the zoo often and is familiar with the bonobos will tell you that Loretta is their favorite. She is very compassionate. She is very loving. She is just a great leader for this group. Next, we have Lisa. So when the whole group is out, Lisa will act as the matriarch. She has this awesome Albert Einstein hair going, and while Loretta may be more hands-on with managing any conflict, Lisa is a little more hands-off, which I find interesting. Here's her son Vic, looking all emo there. Vic has great hair. That is something that I love about him. He should be in a shampoo ad or something. He's awesome. Then here are the two sisters, Maddie and Belle. Something that I use to help identify the two because they look so similar. You'll see that Maddie at the top of her head, she has this little mark, like a little tiny bald spot. And oftentimes the sun would catch that, luckily, so I'd be able to tell them apart. But yeah, these two are really cute, really playful, kind of getting into mischief together. Really fun to watch. So now that I've collected all of my behavioral data and I showed you how I did all that, it's now time for the maybe less fun part of analyzing it. So using the statistical software program called R, I will run statistical tests producing social networks, both pre and post conflict structure, and then I'll have to interpret these results. I don't know exactly how this will be done, full disclosure. I learned so much this summer about behavioral analysis that I'm excited for my mentors Sedona and Dr. White to continue to teach me more, this time about the statistical process. I will present on this research at the 2025 Undergraduate Research Symposium, and I'll also use it to develop it into an undergraduate thesis for the Clark Honors College and to graduate with anthropology honors. I hope to take the valuable STEM skills that I've learned this summer, both behavioral observations and the statistical analysis that I will learn, as I pursue a career in animal research, specifically in primatology. Throughout this presentation, I have mentioned that studying bonobos is important because it helps us learn more about ourselves, humans as a species, but it's also important for the sake of the bonobos themselves. So I wanted to end by talking about conservation of bonobos. According to the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, the IUCN, bonobos are classified as an endangered species with their population decreasing in the wild. The greatest threats to bonobos are human poaching and logging. So zoos like San Diego are in a unique position to help keep this species from going extinct. Conducting behavioral observations of bonobos is important because it helps zoos better understand how to care for them. So data that I've collected can go to zoos, and zoos can use it to better understand how group structure should be set up in zoos and how maybe their enclosures could be updated so that the bonobos are really receiving the highest care possible. Bonobos are much lesser known than the rest of the great apes, and they are much less common in zoos. Only 6 zoos in the US house bonobos, with the Memphis Zoo recently this year giving them up. 81 total bonobos are housed across all of these, and in comparison, over 1,000 chimpanzees, 200 orangutans, and 300 gorillas are housed in the US. Despite the relative low numbers of bonobos in the US, they still deserve to be well taken care of. Visiting these zoos or donating to them helps them to better take care of these amazing species and to keep them alive for future generations to love and get to know. I would like to take this time to say thank you to everybody who helped make this summer so amazing, to Chris, Letty, and Betsy Eaton, all at the San Diego Zoo, who were always more than willing to answer any questions I had about the bonobos, to Sedona, Dr. White, and Sophia, and everybody else at the lab that I'm a part of on campus for their continued support, mentorship, and for Sophia for coming down actually to San Diego a part of the summer to help me collect data. For my family for also helping me to collect data, and then of course to JC Bartlett, Lance McCormick, and everyone at the UO Center for Undergraduate Research and Engagement. Thank you for making this summer possible. Thank you for listening to my research presentation. I hope you all go out into the world with a newfound appreciation and love for bonobos. Thank you.